I am Katherine Martin-Fisher, and I help business owners who have lost their vision because they're struggling with cash flow, sales, marketing, which also affects their company culture, by showing them to implement proven systems that increase their revenue by 30% in 90 days. And this allowing them to reignite the passion and that big dream that they started with. So, the reason that I started this podcast was to celebrate businesses who have overcome adversity and have come out on the other side of it. And I want you to know that you are not alone.
Good afternoon. This is Catherine, your host with the Beyond Business podcast. So today I'm thrilled to welcome Richard Blank, CEO of Costa Rica's call center. From Philadelphia to Central America, Richard has carved out a unique niche in the world of telemarketing and business communication. He's not only built a thriving company in an incredibly competitive industry, he's also developed a reputation for mastering the art of persuasion, training his team in emotional intelligence, and cultivating a strong company culture from the ground up. And I've been made aware that he's also a collector of pinball machines. This is going to be a great conversation. Thank you so much for being with us, Richard.
So happy to be here, Catherine. Thank you so much for having me as your guest. And that's quite an introduction. Hope I can live up to that.
Well, Richard, you've had quite a background here, and I'd love to say, I would love you to share a little bit about your journey of how you went from Philadelphia to running a call center in Costa Rica.
My favorite class in high school was Spanish, and I decided to double down on it and major it in college. So I was building on momentum. And when I was 27 years old, I was given a one in a million opportunity to move to Costa Rica, and I took it. I worked at a friend center, learned the business from the inside out, not at sea level. And then when I was 35 years old, I threw my hat in the ring and started the company. And here we are 18 years later. So it was a one in a million shot, but I had a lot of faith in my own skills. And here we are today.
So, I love that you said that. You had a lot of faith in your own skills. What was the thing that allowed you to say yes? Because not everybody says yes when they're given an opportunity like this. So, what made you say yes?
When your insides tell you that it feels right, when you don't lose sleep over it, but you wake up in the morning and you can't wait to get out and drink it and live it. Here's the thing. Spanish to me was always the most beautiful language, and so I did a lot of dedicated practice outside the classroom. I watched the movies, read the books, and had friends that spoke Spanish. So the more you prepare, the easier it got. And I tell you what, every time I met someone in the Latino community, I got such positive reinforcement and encouragement. So obviously, people are telling me I'm doing the right thing. I wasn't a kid getting in trouble. I was getting acclimates, and it was through academics, which I really
Mm.
wasn't really a serious student. And so I knew that if I could be the only one of my friends that could speak Spanish, I could show this respect and have an open mind. Maybe the world would be my oyster. The next thing you know, it made this transition, Catherine, that much more easier for me. I was ready for it. So anything that I encountered, it wasn't a 10, it became a 2, something I could pick up in my own hand and work with. It wasn't overwhelming for me. And so that's why the stress got reduced and the clarity got enhanced. And I made those sort of decisions.
So I'm going to ask you this because, and this is not really related to business or anything from what you're doing, but I'm of the Hispanic culture. So the reason I'm asking this question, we have generations of children that are being raised and are not speaking the language. And what advice would you give them in the sense where this has created opportunity for you to be able to go to another country, speak the language, and be very successful at what you do? And so I do want to add that to our podcast today because it is something that speaks to my heart, is why these children do not speak the language that they are born culturally into.
That's a great observation. Difficult to see every family, but maybe we can look at it like this. How many times have children rebelled? It's true.
Mm.
I did when I was growing up. I got an earring. Yeah, rebel. But it's not the point. Sometimes when there's family tradition, people just want to see if they could be different from it, or they don't want to follow in certain steps because they might feel boxed in or forced into.
Mm.
And it's not a bad thing. Maybe they're just looking for a certain identity. or the chance to get outside of a certain bubble. Like for my own example, my
Right.
grandfather went to Harvard Law. I couldn't get into Harvard Law. My pop went to Columbia Business School. I didn't have the grades and I didn't want to study business. My brother went to Washington and Lee for accounting. I didn't have the maturity for that. And so imagine if they forced me to be a lawyer or an accountant. Could I have done it? I don't know. But if I did pull it off, I would have been miserable. And so for me, on the opposite side of embracing the Spanish is maybe the opposite of what someone is doing in another family to see if they can test waters. But I tell you what, it's a wonderful language. It really shows cognitive skills. It's the kind of thing that's universal where you can use it anywhere. It's just not one of
Mhm.
those things I felt like I needed to go to download and carry equipment with me. And so it was fun, but it's a romantic language. And I think it enhanced communication compared to English, where I could show desire and doubt through the subjunctive tense. And finally, when I was speaking Spanish, the sort of smiles that I'd get, people would give me the time, they would introduce me to others, and I was earning that through a sincere effort. And I was stronger than the fastest speaking English businessman if I could speak to Don Jose in his language and showing respect to his culture. I usually got that appointment first. I
That's
just
it.
did it the old fashioned way, the way we were raised by our grandparents. So maybe I hope that
That's
answered your question in a sense.
that does. It really does. And I feel like it's important to, to have that conversation because so many times I question that and, but yeah, so what do you see are the biggest mistakes that businesses make when communicating with potential customers? Because you seem to be an extremely good communicator.
Thank you. Listening. You might want to push an idea on somebody, but they just don't want peaches. You got to be careful and not be afraid to turn down a client if it's not a good fit or you just don't get along well. There's 1,000 ways to earn a dollar. I don't think you should compromise your ethics, values, or peace of mind for a client that yells at you before you even had your morning coffee. And so for me, I was exceptionally selective of what came in here. It's kind of funny, Catherine. Hollywood glamorizes call centers through The Wolf of Wall Street and Boiler Room, and not everybody sells stock or real estate or does sweepstakes scams. There's incredible people out there that can retain a client through customer support, that can prospect for a company and get new business. For someone like myself, you're saying some of the mistakes that they're making, maybe they're not doing due diligence. Look at what you did prior to me even speaking today. Look at that introduction. It was almost like trumpets and a red carpet. And the same with you. We both read about each other and we found interest and ways to connect. And so when you take that time and you learn about people that work with you and you mention them on a phone call or in writing, it's a positive escalation. If you compliment years in business or a beautiful loading dock or you like their logo, or these are the sort of things that are like breaking down the fourth wall in Hollywood where they look at the audience. You're getting off a script. It's raw. It's real. It's not a print. It's a painting where you see brushstrokes. And so people would see the authenticity in the calls that I would make. I'd be sincerely excited for their bicycle company or their ice cream store. And I would ask about flavors and they couldn't hang up on me.
Right.
I think if you engage in the moment, if you love the now, if you really get excited to try to pay it forward to somebody without trying to grab a deal and money, then magic does happen. So I think if people can just put themselves in that sort of mindset and see this as relationship building through the art of speech compared to pressing, it's not a forced march anymore. And that's maybe one of the mistakes that they made. They try to force a square into a circle, and it just doesn't work like that.
It's so interesting that you say that because I find the same thing. When you're authentically just caring about the client and you know what is best, what their needs are and where
Mhm.
their pain points are, and you're able to actually articulate to them some of the things that you can solve those pains and not just try to sell them anything. It's literally caring about the client. So I used to work at a call center, as customer service in Allstate many years ago when I first got out of high school. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I always found so interesting is there were the ones who always looked at that little light and they had to hurry up and get off the call so that they could be the one with the highest call rate for that day. And I didn't care about the light, I cared about the people. And so, but through that, there were so many more satisfied customers because you were actually helping them solve their problems. And that's the thing that we want to do in business. And that's what I get of how you handle your customers and clients that you're working with. So I love that.
You
So
brought up
thank you
a
so
very important metric there, Catherine. You were talking about talk time and conversion ratios compared to the amount of calls that I could care less if you make 5,000 calls, make me 5 calls. As long as you're hitting it out of the park and it's a conversion. And I'm sure through the quality control department, when they were studying your KPIs, you got the highest marks, not on the top 20 that you had to ask them, but the soft skills, saying their name, repeating the information, military alphabet, landing that plane. And so that's what makes customer support incredible when you have that sort of relationship. Yes.
So true. So true. Tell me, uh, can you give us a example of the breakdown of what makes a phone conversion, a conversation true, I meant a conversation truly persuasive?
Okay. Time is number one, because if they hang up on you, you don't even get a chance to pitch them. So in my mind, it's like anchoring. It's climbing that rock. It's buying time, having breath so you can continue distance. Because persuasion sometimes is making your point. Because if you only get to say two things instead of 10 things, your point may not be as strong. And you might not have a
much.
chance to readjust tone or choose that other adventure. And so instead of giving you the $1 million advice, which is impossible on how to close a deal, why don't we just focus on the initial part, which is the introduction? Because if you can get in the door, if you can grab onto the rock and get another breath, you might have some time to get the body and then the conclusion and then finish it. What's one of my techniques when I'm doing outbound prospecting? The first thing I would do would be a company name spike. The Beyond Business Podcast. How are you today? And I would use my anonymity in the first 3 seconds compared to asking for Catherine or if the boss is available or how are you today? Because if you receive that sort of phone call, you have a bad taste in your mouth, sounds like a telemarketer, you'd say, take me off your list. I'm not interested. How'd you get my number? Sometimes you say F you. Click. I would rather, if I'm calling a company, say the Beyond Business Podcast. How are you today? And I'm going to say better than the person who answered the call. And so what it's going to
That's
do,
right.
it's going to snap them out of the trance. At least I got in something. And even if you hung up on me then, that's a romantic death. I can jump clouds. Why? Because I said the name of your company. At least I got a part in the play before you ended it. And so I got
That's
some
right.
speaking roles. So I spoke first and I spoke it with sunshine. And I did it in such a wonderful way that I made your person who answered the call straighten their tie a little bit. Listen, I just sized you up. Why aren't you saying it like I am? You're saying it in a boring way. And so then they will always say, who is this? Compared to who is this? Don't call me again. How'd you get my number? That's a positive reinforcement. That means I just passed the first Indiana Jones checkpoint. So then I'll say, well, hey, Catherine, my name is Richard Blank. And then I'm not going to say the name of my company yet. I got a double dip. What do you mean? If I said your name, hey, Catherine, my name is Richard Blank, and I'm saying it in such a nice way, maybe you'll say, well, who is Richard Blank? Gotcha. Instead of saying, is this a sales call? And so I get a chance for you to snap out of it. I get to show you that I said the name of your company, name dropped you, said my name, and there's a technique called the buffer boomerang technique. It's a half
Mm-hmm.
moon. I'll say, Catherine, that's an excellent question. Repeat the question and give you the answer. For an example, hi, what's your name? Richard Blank. Who is Richard Blank? Catherine, that's an excellent question. Richard Blank is the owner of Costa Rica's call center. What's ABC? Catherine, that's an excellent question. ABC is 1, 2, 3. You're readjusting tones because you do not know me yet. Snapped you out of it, took you from a 10 to a 6. You asked me twice who I am and the name of the company through a buffer boomerang, name drop, great question, repeat question, send it back happy. And then when I finally get the pass to pitch, and I am going to get transferred over to somebody. I'm going to say, hey, Catherine, you've been great on the phone. I'm going to let Mr. Jones know when you transfer me. And you go, thank you, Richard. And so when I get transferred and Mr. Jones answers, no one ever gets to him. Hi, this is Mr. Jones. And Mr. Jones, I just got to let you know, Catherine's the best. You don't even know who I am yet. And so I'm not doing the company name spike. I can do that a second time, but the first thing I'm doing is the positive escalation, letting you know that Catherine's great. Oh yeah, she's been with me 20 years. Yeah, that's my wife. Yeah, she's the greatest person we have at the company. Of course she is. And then she goes, Who is this? Man, I got you. And then we do the buffer boomerang twice again. What's that doing? It's buying me 30 seconds worth of time. It's a beautiful checkpoint. And if I can get to 30 seconds, I can do it 10 more times. And just to make sure that things make sense, sounds good, with clarification and tie down questions. And all you're doing is slowing down and taking it one step at a time, that each point that you're talking about makes sense and sounds good. That's all. That's the
Now, Richard,
easiest way to do it.
this is amazing because this is a skill set that you have. How do you take the skill set that you have? Number one, I'd like to know, did you have mentors or teachers that taught you this? But then how do you transfer that then to your company, to other leaders in your company to be able to do what you are able to do?
Of course. That's why you have the best podcast. That's a wonderful question. All right, let me answer the first part for you. Mentors, so many. But if I have to give your audience some homework, and I'm not giving boring homework, I'm giving fun homework. I want you to watch three different things. The first thing is the A-Team. Remember that show back in the 80s?
Yes.
That's right. Besides Mr. T, who was the best, there was also a character called Templeton Peck. He was the face man, played by the amazing actor Dirk Benedict. Study his rhetoric and skills. Now, a second actor was Pierce Brosnan as Remington Steele. Oh, what a
Yes.
show that was with Stephanie Zimbalist. So study that rhetoric. And then the best mentor that I ever had was a gentleman by the name of Basil Rathbone. Back in the 30s and 40s, he did Sherlock Holmes with Nigel Bruce. Now, listen, Catherine, if I spoke like him, you'd be like, what's wrong with you? I don't speak Queen's English. But I tell you what, that was the sharpest knife and the sharpest tongue. And I would look up some vocabulary words and rewind the VCR. And I was like, this is incredible. I gravitated towards that advanced speech, and I realized there are people out there much more polished and clever than I. And so there's nothing wrong with borrowing a color. I mean, I didn't invent it, but I can use it through my medium. And so I was taking a lot of the things that I believed were effective and just using it. Yes, those are my mentors. And then how do we increase in our skills? Well, the beauty of it is we have the luxury of listening to ourselves. Now, I think it was like in the mid 19th century, like in the 1850s, when they had the stenograph, the first time they actually could record somebody singing. Unless you
Yes.
lived in a cave where you could hear yourself with an echo, it was almost impossible, if impossible, to record and hear yourself. And so this is not new. This is the kind of thing where, or this is very new in fact, because think of all the generations, we're not used to it. So that's why we're still not used to our own voice and our own sound. And so the more that you can record yourself and just make minor adjustments in regards to your phonetics, in regards to your tone of voice, which in my opinion should always be empathetic and confident. That's a beautiful, consistent variable. And you should also very much pay attention to your rate of speech and your speaking levels and how loud you are. And pausing is so important because light and darkness, sound and silence. You should be using pauses and silence to your advantage in regards to speech. And this is non-visual speech, my friend. That's even more powerful than face-to-face, where you can misconstrue people's body language and tell signs. But let's not even go there. Let's go to even the purest form, sound without sight. And so we are making our voice so pleasing. It's almost like a drug where people can fall into the sound, into the pattern where you mirror image them, you match them. It's a dance of speech. It's a taking turn. And if it can be done properly, do not be surprised if 10 minutes goes by like that. And they say, wow, that was the most fun ever. I go, of course, painless. That's how it's done.
That is, I love that you're saying that because that is so true. And that's actually how you engage in that back and forth and that tonality. It's beautiful. Just one moment here. Richard, I want to thank you so much for just this lovely insight that you're giving us. So if you're an entrepreneur that has decided that you want to relocate, expand your business outside of the country, could you just explain to them some of the challenges that you may have gone through in having done that, or what are the positives in doing something like that?
Okay. Well, the first thing is to be prepared. So you have to study the laws and the rules that are there to see if you're even able to start a business. Now, when you do go there, my advice would be to team up with specialists. Get yourself a good attorney. an accountant. And if you grow a business, find someone who has a degree in human resources. So you have people that have invested all this time and are experts in it so you can focus on other things. In addition to that, if you're going out to purchase or look at real estate, have an individual that's local represent you. You can make the final decision and you can be there in the payment, but I've also seen that people might increase the price or make you jump through a couple more hoops if they realize that you're from another place or they could take advantage of you. It's not a bad thing. It's just realistic. And sometimes people see opportunities. And so my advice, if someone was going to start, is to really take your time and find the right people to surround yourself with that are in it for the long game. And if you do that, then they will be able to give you the best advice and save you the most money and make it easiest for you to start. And then on the other side, you have something to add. You are in a new country, you're a guest there, so it should keep you on your toes, should make you sharp every day so you're not numb. And since you are unique in this other environment, it's like a little spice you would add to the stew. It makes all the difference in the world. And so you're thinking outside of the box as they are to yours. So by blending that together, two worlds are coming together, and you'll probably get double the amount of ideas from that. And so there's nothing better than someone from the complete opposite end of the world to see what they think about your lifestyle and vice versa. And so it really opened my eyes into communication and how to relate to this specific culture and how to get them to be their best. So no, I definitely think your audience should take that challenge.
That is really great advice. So basically, building a team is instrumental. I mean, that is one of the most important things. But I love what you've said about the locals, like getting a partnership with a local who can help in that process, because you're so right. I mean, one of the things that my husband always says when we go to a country where I speak Spanish, I'm able to communicate easily. And so that is always that immediate, like, okay, she's one of us. And so then it causes for, it has there's a better experience because now you can't get over. People have opportunities. They take opportunities. But even when we go to Puerto Rico, that's common to me. It's always different when you can speak the language. And that's the reason I originally asked about the language, because, I have brothers who do not speak the language. They understand, but they don't speak it. And it is different when you can't speak the language. But so
That's right.
along with that, you have had all these experiences and you're in another country. What would be the best client avatar for you and how you would do business with them? Like, who would be your best client?
Someone that has a mecha larga, someone that has patience, because I think that peace of mind and tranquility allows me to work better. I can work under pressure and you can give me responsibilities. But if there's unnecessary distraction or people are just venting and stuff at the wrong place at the wrong time, that just doesn't work. So any sort of maybe an avatar for me, maybe just a beautiful yellowish color. Yellowish cream doesn't even have to be an image. It's just something that evokes a happy feeling. Oh, is that my internet or hers?
Okay.
Okay. So, of course, the ideal client would be underhand pitches with wiffle balls for a customer support client. But if I had to think about the client to work with, it would be someone that has just a mecha larga, someone with patience, someone that, once again, doesn't fill the time and energy with distraction. Because I work best when, I mean, I can handle stress and responsibilities. It's just how people character during chaos. That's all. It's unnecessary to add additional weight when you really don't have to. And so a lot of it, my friend, deals with impulse control and maturity. And that's done with time. And so I wish I had this back in my 20s. I think I'd have more hair today, but I don't. And I had to learn it the hard way. But if I had to choose an avatar
So
for the
because
client,
you
it'd be a nice
mentioned going back in
creamy
your 20s,
yellowish
I
color
actually
or my
wanted to
favorite color,
ask
which is
you,
mint.
what
I don't
advice
want to
would
give
you
them an
give
image.
yourself
It's got to
in
be just
your
a
younger self?
color that could just
One
expand and
piece
make me
of
feel good,
advice,
like a warm blanket.
business advice, that would be, what would that be if that was an advice you were giving yourself?
And this is for the entire life, Catherine. It's just not to be hard on yourself. How could you? Imagine the decisions you made at 12 years old compared to 52. I got 40 years to learn that. I can't be hard on myself at that time. I had no idea. And I was dealing with the circumstances of that moment of what was around me. I can't do hindsight and Monday morning quarterback. That's not fair. That's not fair at all. And the fact that if I was 26 years old and I was at the point of either staying in the United States or at 27 moving to Costa Rica, I had to ask myself that crossroads question. And so what I
Mm.
did do to alleviate being hard on myself was getting past a lot of guilt and sometimes making selfish decisions in order for my own mental and physical survival. And once again, when a lot of people do not understand what you're doing, have never done it before, and think that you're
But
crazy, what do you do? This is exactly what you do. You have a hero's journey. You leave a castle, you slay a dragon and save a princess, and then you're on the Beyond Business podcast. It's just how it had to be, because if not, I couldn't live with myself. And some people are willing to die with their boots on. I was responsible with it. I understood the tell signs that I was going in the right direction. I just wasn't a rebel breaking windows. I was banking it on the romance of this second language and opportunities. And so I took it. But hard on yourself, that's a terrible thing to do. I think you should make your bed in the morning. You should look at yourself in the mirror. You should work out if you're able so you can preserve. And you should find ways to decompress. With me, it's washing my convertible, playing pinball on Sundays. I can find ways where Richard can spend time with Richard again, just for a couple minutes. And then we can separate piles and realize what's important for the day. And if you don't get that, time goes by and you lose yourself. And you get further away from what drives you. And living life is not the forced march or the wheel of death like in Conan the Barbarian, where you're just walking around in this circle pushing a grinder. That's a terrible way to live. I remember the
Mm.
imagery of Under Pressure with David Bowie and Freddie Mercury, and they were showing images of people being pushed into subway cars or the thousands of people walking down the sidewalks of the cities, and as exciting as it might seem, that scared me to death. It was another brick in the Pink Floyd wall, and I didn't want to be that individual. I wanted to be a painting.
Mhm.
I just didn't want to be a print. I wanted to see if I could do something in life that could grow in a desert, to be a flower in a desert. I wanted to see that if I had 100 years here, could I live, not just living? And I almost needed to
Right.
do it on my own because no one put me into this. I mean, school gives you structure and sometimes you have athletics and other activities, but when it comes to the big game, no one really writes this out for you. And there's so many expectations that people have of me and you, Catherine. And so what do you and I do? Do we succumb or do we go outside and dance in the rain? And I decided the latter. I decided to be a really classic romantic and be the crazy one of my friends. Crazy what? I just knew this, that I could live with myself. And at the end of the day, I think that's a beautiful thing. And so I hope that your audience can find that sort of inner peace and balance earlier in life. I think at 27 is the day that I shed that
that makes so
skin
much
and
sense.
my
And that
healing
really does
began.
speak to my
So
soul, because
fortunately
I
for
will
me, I was
say
still
that
able to have it in my
when you
youth,
can
and it's
authentically
been
align
carrying to
with who you
today.
are and
And
what you're supposed to do, I
does
feel
that
that
make any
you're
sort of sense, my
actually
friend?
serving the world at a level in which you were born here to
Okay,
do.
good.
And I love that you were an outliner. Like literally you decided that you were going to go outside the lines of what normal society says that you should do, because you're set up in this family, and these are the expectations, and this is what you have to do when you go to school, and this is what you're able to actually be yourself and give yourself permission to be yourself, which then serves others at a higher level, in all honesty. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with our audience. We appreciate that. So let's do something fun. What is a favorite dish in Costa Rica that you enjoy eating? So, oh, wonderful. I love.
Yeah.
What is a favorite dish in Costa Rica that you? That's one of my number one things, my go-to with
I
tostones
love pulpo
in
con
Puerto Rico.
ajo. Oh, when they make the local octopus with so tasty. Yeah, it's good stuff. The seafood here is delicious. The exotic fruit is
That's
great. The guanabana
beautiful.
on the
I love that.
mangoes and the
I cannot wait
papaya.
to
When you
visit
go to
in
the
Costa Rica
farmer's
because
market on
it has been
Saturday,
one of
you
those
can
things on my bucket
eat
list for
so
sure.
well for a fraction of the cost, and it's so
So,
fresh. So if you really want that healthy lifestyle, it's there
would you
for you.
share with our audience like one of the biggest mistakes that you may have made along your journey? But then what is one of the
Cool.
biggest things you're most proud of?
Biggest mistake was putting faith in somebody that disappointed me so. A wolf in sheep's clothing.
True.
How many different fables, stories, and examples do you hear about people that look what happened to Caesar? Look what happened to every kingdom. There's always whispers and shadows. So in this environment where I've hired thousands and promoted so many, from time to time, and these individuals had skills, but they didn't have ethics and they didn't have morals nor values. And once that mask came off, I learned it the hard way. You can get angry as much as you want and you can wish terrible things on people, and trust me, you do in your private moments. But what did I learn from that? I learned that I shouldn't be angry at myself for having faith in others. I might have been clouded by certain emotion and time and all these experiences. So of course, your decision process and the way you think is off. Someone might not love you anymore when you put on these rose-colored glasses. But I knew that I gave individuals specific opportunities, and I know that I let them speak for me and do certain things. And I think one of the most beautiful things in life you can do is to let go of certain things and allow people in your lives to work with you, because running a business, you can't do everything. You need to have individuals there. You get spread too thin. And a wonderful thing in life is to promote someone and to trust someone and to work with someone and believe in someone. And I'm not the first to say that people have disappointed you in your lives, a best friend, a coworker, a teacher, anybody. It could be on expectations, but then again, there's a certain point of where they cross that line. Let's forget showing up late or forgetting a birthday or something. I'm not going there.
Mm,
I'm talking about that line where you know that there was a certain time when they had to think for a second and say, is this or is this not going to hurt Richard and Catherine? Could it
mm.
affect their lives? And do I care? And you realize that they don't care. And you know what's interesting about money? It brings out the worst in people. And one day, when all this money loses its luster and you can't buy anything anymore, you have either too
They
much,
are.
too little, or it doesn't even matter, you're going to realize what the most important things are in life. And it's not money. You don't need to buy your best friend, and smiles are free. And I'm not getting paid to be here today. I love being here today, and I'll do it 1,000 more times on my time. And so, it's not about
Hmm.
that, but there are some people that will literally sell their soul for money and do certain things out of desperation. And it makes you think about who you
Right.
are and how much you cost and what decisions you're willing to make for your own name and how you feel about yourself and how your children and family and friends will see you. And I hope in a certain way where I'm trying to do it diplomatically and strategically. But my goodness, just prepare for that. And from time to time, if you need to ask a question for clarification, it might insult the person at the moment, but if it's a way to save a relationship or to make sure that your intuition or your doubts are either put to bed or justified, then do it. Because by not asking and not investigating or not double checking, you'll miss it. And that was my ignorance and my mistake. And that's never going to happen again. And so I'm sorry to put it on a serious tone, but if it's the sort of thing where, besides my smile, I also have my
Hmm.
scars, Catherine. And so and I'm still a person like you that can always pick ourselves up, move forward and be relentlessly positive, but we're also real. We've lived life. We've tasted the blood. Okay. And we understand what it's
Mm.
like, but the better people are the ones
Are
that
you an
can
advocate?
rise from that like a phoenix and move forward. And so it's made
But
me stronger, but unfortunately through such sacrifice.
What would you say is one of your favorite books that you've read or listened to?
No, but I'm an avid listener. I'll listen to audiobooks and stuff. Yeah. I can't read. It's too much of a chore. The one that had the most inspiration on me was one that was given to me when I was in Spain. And in the fall of 93, a good friend of mine gave me Anthony Adverse. It's a book written by Harvey Allen back in, I think, 1936. Anyway, it was kind of similar. It was about someone in the 18th century in Europe that just traveled around, found himself, fell in love, and lived a life. The book was 1,234 pages. It went through the guy's whole life. I said to myself, if I ever read a book that long, I'll never do it again, and B, let me see if I can do it. But it was very interesting for me. And I don't know, it was the time when I was just going to the museums, speaking Spanish, staying up late, waking up early. And I really felt like I was truly living
I
the
love
most
that.
beautiful
Thank you
life.
for
And so,
sharing that.
I guess that book meant
What
the most to
what is
me
the thing
because it
about the
happened at
pinball machine?
probably the most uh, inspirational times of my life.
I want
Yes.
to know, why do you love pinball machines?
What's
We are
not? Are you kidding? Come on, man. Okay, listen, you need to calm down. Now, I know it's
there.
not polite to ask a lady her age, but we are from the beautiful Generation X. And when we we grew up where arcades were cool. That's where the games were, and $5 needed to last you a whole weekend. And I can play asteroids for 45 minutes. Pinball machine, that 50 cents used to go away in a minute. I couldn't afford it. It was too beautiful. It was too expensive. What happened? I moved to Costa Rica and arcades are going out of business. I have a call center with tons of space and I was doing well. And people were giving them away. So me, Billy, Tommy, and Joey, we jump in a truck with a couple $100, drive to Perez Zeledon. I'm bringing back 3 pinball machines and a jukebox. And so these people are giving it away. They weren't necessarily working. Some of them were, but they were
Right.
just 30, 40-year-old machines. And so what you would do is you take out all the CPUs and the stuff behind the marquee. You order them from Marco's Specialties, you replace all that stuff, and the
Hmm.
machine turns on again and starts working. And so you buy something for $300, next thing you know, it's worth $5,000, and you know the value. But I tell you what, my favorite decade are from the 70s. Those are the most beautiful pinball machines. They're electromechanical, so it's on contacts, not the computers. This is the years when they used to paint the play field. So the older machines, sometimes you see some cracks. Today they use laminates or stickers. And some of the marquee in the back glass was the most beautiful. And then if you look at the actual machine itself, the sort of artwork, and they're using xylophones and bells. What a beautiful machine. And it's such an open play field where there's about 4 or 5 targets. It's the easiest play. And so
That's
those are my favorite. I own
beautiful.
11 machines. My oldest one is a 1970 Bally's Camelot, and the newest is a 1994 Data East Last Action Hero with Arnold Schwarzenegger and everything in between. And it's just, yeah, super fun. And I tell you what, if you can get one, here's my advice for your audience. I know what you're thinking. These machines are 10, 20,000. Yeah, the brand new ones. But if you find a machine from the 70s and 80s that's a no name, not like Kiss or Captain America or Rolling Stones, like I did, Camelot. You never heard of it before. Thing is like $700. And so you can get these things,
No,
put them in your house, clean them up, and now you're the most popular guy in town. You know what it reminds me of? Remember back in the day when people used to hang around the organs or the pianos and start singing songs like Archie Bunker? No one does that anymore. But when you have a pinball machine, everyone's hanging around that machine competing and stuff. So it takes people
that's
off of the
amazing. Thank you
television
for
and off
sharing
of their
that. I just
phones,
wanted
and it
to
really
add
brings
that
people
pinball
together.
machine there at the
And
end
so I
because I
always
feel like
found it's the
we
most
probably
happy
don't lie,
medium
but that
is
makes
the
so
old
much
school
sense.
retro
Yes,
gaming. So
we're of the
yes, my
same
friend, I collect
generation.
those machines.
Oh my goodness, that's so fun. That's actually fun. And you know what? What I love is that you're add fun
Don't
into
you
your
remember
life
Ricky
and the
Schroeder
things
and
that bring
Silver
you joy.
Spoons?
And when
He
we
had like
bring
the best
ourselves
arcade. I
joy,
wanted
we're
one of
able
those.
to actually send more of that out into the world. And so I love that. Thank you. Is that you add serious. Fun yes. Into your life and the things that bring you joy. And when we bring ourselves joy, we're able to actually send more of that out into the world. I love air
Yeah, because
hockey
everyone's
for
just so
sure. That is
serious,
one of my
especially at work.
favorite things to play.
At magazines, it's uncomfortable and terrible coffee. What's wrong with you? Let's go play some air hockey. And you asked me a question earlier. Yeah.
That I love that.
You wonder why
So
people
please tell us,
stay.
Richard, if people
Because
are
through
just, they've
natural
enjoyed our
filtration, when they're
conversation,
being
they've
interviewed
enjoyed
here and they
what
see the
we've
game
had to
room, they
offer
realize
here,
we're fun.
how would they get in touch
Of
with you?
course you want to
How
be
would
here.
they do business with you? What are the ways in which they could communicate with you? Because you've added a lot of value to our podcast today, so I thank you so much. But how would they reach out to you?
You're so kind. Well, when it's really snowy and really cold, you should buy a plane ticket and fly to Costa Rica so it's nice. That's advice number one. Number two, if you want, you can shoot me an email, CEO Costa Rica's call center. And I tell you what, if they mention you in your amazing podcast, I'll definitely look at their scripts for free and give advice. But I can't thank you enough. I had the best time. And you know what? You do bring the best out of your guest. You're very sweet. You're fun, and you just
Well,
get people
thank you.
so
I really
relaxed that
appreciate this
they
time. I
feel
feel
like
like
they're with their best
our
friend
recording
and
was
all they
so
want to
much
do is say
value
nice
add
things. And so
to our
I
clients
can't thank
and
you
to
enough for
our,
putting me
to
in a
our
very,
audience. And I
very
just thank
happy
you.
mind space today.
I'm beyond thankful to this very authentic conversation because sometimes it's a very, it's, it can be very scripted. And I'm saying this on recording because for a reason,
Yeah.
when you authentically, as in the conversation that we've had, are yourself, you add so much value and joy and fun. And that is something that I think we need more of in the world. So thank you again, Richard, for being with us today. So again, this is Catherine, your host with the Beyond Business podcast. So grateful that you were here to listen to us today. And please reach out to Richard because you know what? He sounds like
We pulled it
someone who would
off.
have
All
you'd have
right.
lots of fun with and being able to get lots of advice as well. So thank you. So grateful that you were here to listen to us today. And please reach out to Richard because you know what? He sounds like someone who you'd have lots of fun with and being able to get lots of advice as well. So thank you.
Well, if you made it to this point, then you made it to the end, and you are my star. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation with today's guest. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and share this episode with others who may be interested in this topic. Also, please feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch in the comments or in Rocket Growth's social media platforms. To have conversations with me, my booking link is in the comments. See you next week for a all new episode.